Poland is evidently reluctant to let the constitutional conflict with the EU escalate completely. On Wednesday, the country's constitutional court, with limited independence, held another hearing on whether European law should take precedence over national law. Many observers had expected the court to finally decide on this. After all, it had postponed the decision several times already. But even on Wednesday, the Constitutional Court, which is at least partially dependent on the ruling party Law and Justice, the PiS, could not bring itself to a decision. Rather, it had postponed the case to September 30th. The court president, Julia Przylewska, announced that the session that began on Wednesday should continue on September 30th. She is a close confidant of Jarosław Kaczynski, the head of the ruling PiS party. The reason given was that new aspects had been put forward. The court therefore needs time to formulate questions about this. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki had asked the constitutional judges to review a ruling by the European Court of Justice, the ECJ, from March. In it, the top EU judges found that EU law can force member states to disregard individual provisions in national law. This applies even when it comes to constitutional law. The question of whether the EU treaty was compatible with the Polish constitution was negotiated for a good 2.5 hours on Wednesday in the Polish Constitutional Court. Then, the president of the court, Julia Przylewska, announced a break and finally an interruption of the hearing until September 30th, as I said. New circumstances and new allegations had arisen which had to be carefully investigated. Up to then, of course, essentially known positions had been put forward. The representatives of the government, the parliamentary majority, and the president supported the motion that Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki of the National Conservative PiS had tabled in March. The representative of the Ombudsman for Civil Rights objected because of the reforms. The EU Commission has already opened several infringement proceedings against the government in Warsaw and has filed lawsuits with the European Court of Justice, the ECJ. Among other things, the Brussels authority has doubts about the independence of the Polish Constitutional Court, and they are not, as we would say, taken from thin air. The Brussels Commission is currently withholding billions in corona aid for Poland because there are concerns about whether the rule of law is being observed in the country. The responsible EU Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis recently said that the open question of the primacy of EU law also played a role. However, Poland's government within the EU is not alone in its doubts about the priority of EU law. From the point of view of the Federal Constitutional Court too, it is disputed whether judgments of the European Court of Justice generally have priority over judgment by national courts. But it's a totally different topic than in Poland, by the way, just saying. In May 2020, the Karlsruhe judges objected to the European Central Bank's bond purchases worth billions and thus opposed a ECJ ruling for the first time. The constitutional judges argued that the central bank had overstretched its mandate for monetary policy with a program launched in 2015. The federal government and the German Bundestag should work towards ensuring that Europe's monetary authorities check retrospectively whether the purchases are proportionate. This has now happened, as the court found in a decision at the end of April. In the dispute over the judgment, the EU Commission announced the initiation of infringement proceedings against Germany in June. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.